Hello, my name is Paul Sandrock, ACTFL Director of Education. Welcome to this webinar, part of ACTFL's response to the rapid move to teaching and learning remotely. ACTFL thanks all of you for the tremendous effort you are putting forth, staying focused on your learners and finding very creative ways to support them during these challenging times. Today's webinar is led by Azama and Michelle Lupisan. Both are high school teachers of Japanese in Salinas, California. Azama sensei was the 2012 ACTFL National Language Teacher of the Year, and Lupisan sensei was a student in Yo's classroom who is now inspiring her own students. They collaborated with their colleagues to create a set of resources for online Japanese learning during school closures. And they realized that merely transferring classroom activities into an online format would just add a lot of work to their students' already stressful days. So instead, they got rid of some of the content and focused on how learners learn instead of how teachers teach. So let's get right to today's topic, remote learning, keeping our learners close. Welcome, Michelle and Yo.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. It's so nice to see you and nice to being seen by all the viewers today. I hope you're there because otherwise I will be just talking to the wall. So Michelle and I will be talking to the wall. I hope that's not the case. I hope you like my new quarantine haircut, which is hair going crazy. I hope your hair is not as bad as mine. But that's the side effect, serious side effect of school closure, I think. Right? Michelle, you look great though with glasses.
Thank you.
So as Paul mentioned, Michelle was my former student,
Yes.
and now as a colleague, and she's been teaching Japanese at Salinas High for 4 years, I believe, right?
3 years, yeah.
3, okay.
This is my third.
All right. So today, together, we're so happy to share our experiences going remote in the past 6 weeks or so. Feels like 6 years, but I hope our content today will provide you with some insights and ideas and a new lens to look at remote lessons for weeks to come. All right, let's start. So we teach in Salinas, California, which is 1 hour south of San Jose. It's agricultural rich area, and many of our students' parents work in the field, and some of the students themselves work in the field. And so I have to mention that so that to give you some context of our students' population. And many of our students are on free lunch program as well. And so with that, I'd like to share some first things to consider when we went on distant learning, okay? So we went to school closure. When was it, Michelle? That was April?
March 17th.
March 17th.
Yeah,
so
March
16th, Monday, I believe. So 13th was Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Oh, that 16th
Bad
Monday,
luck.
we were on school closure. So, and that week, we had that week to really sit down and plan for our remote learning platform. And when we sat together and brainstormed what are the important things we have to teach, like Paul mentioned earlier, we did have to think about our curriculum and really look at what are the really essential things that we would like to keep, and some things we had to let go, sadly. That's because some of us felt like, okay, trying to keep the same content, but remotely. But that approach was really was not feasible for all of us. Would you agree, Michelle?
Yes.
So, so we had to quickly really adapt to this new situation with a new lens. Instead of trying to recreate the classroom instruction remotely, we just have to look at remote platform as from remote new lens. So these are some things that we brainstormed that we felt that really important, and also we read a lot of articles, and those ideas came from that as well. First thing we knew was important was to make a connection with the student, and we're going to be talking about a little more in depth in a few slides in. And also we realized that choices for learning, it becomes really important in this setting, because ultimately really self-paced learning, that's what was about to happen. And also we felt like students need to be provided opportunities to express their learning, what they've learned, what skills they gain throughout different tasks. And those tasks should be meaningful. And like I said earlier, as a self-paced learning environment, we have to respect that. And we felt like less is more, because immediately we felt like, oh, I can use this app, or you can use this one too, this one too. And we quickly realized that the focus should not be here. First week realized that the focus wasn't to create the perfect lesson, but rather the best lesson we could provide at that time, and had to go out quickly. So that was the kind of background we have to think about. So past 6 weeks, what happened was, week 1, again, time to pause, ground ourselves with research and with our students in mind. So we took that week to really sit down and look at important elements in the curriculum, but also feasibility, resources that students had that time. How many of them have laptops, Chromebooks? How many of them have or don't have a Wi-Fi connection and whatnot? We knew right away that our students' life has changed dramatically, like ours did. And with that in mind, we also understand that students had to take care of their siblings as well at home, other chores, other class assignments, and so forth. And some of them are experiencing really tough situation where parents had lost jobs, or some of the family members got sick, and so forth. So really, we had to sit together. When we say we, 7 Japanese teachers in the district as a PLC, we had to get together quickly and really look at those elements. That was week 1. And in week 2 and 3, we slowly shifted our attention to, so how can we engage our students in a meaningful way? And that time, no Google Meets were allowed, but now we can do synchronous meetings. But back then, it was a pause because of the Zoom bombing or security issues. So we had to work with that. So we had some limitations, but it was never, sometimes it wasn't a bad thing necessarily. So that really pushed us to be creative. I think those 5 weeks looking back, some of the restrictions or constraints actually made us, pushed us to be more creative and adaptive and flexible. So, so actually looking back, it's kind of good that we kind of find a way to overcome that together as a PLC. And week 4 and week 5 and 6, that's when we started thinking about how can we really nurture students' inner curiosity and learning for learning's sake. So we came up with some different activities for that as well. So we're going to be talking about those 3 types of learning experiences with you in the next few slides. But first,
thank you, Yo and Michelle. And I just have a question that is surfacing from some of the comments coming in, that clearly students were thrust into this remote teaching and learning environment. And just like you, their teachers, they didn't ask for it, they didn't prepare for it. But it looks like you are very much trying to help your learners take on more responsibility for their learning. And we would like to hear if you have any advice on how do you prepare learners to be self-responsible for their learning? How do you consciously and gradually put that responsibility from teacher to student?
That's a great question, Paul. I think what we did and what I think it worked was to really pause everything and then really, because it was a tough situation for all of us, including teachers, a really unknown, this is something that we never experienced before. And we can only imagine how stressful that was for our students, and really to pause and reconnect with our students and give them assurance and to be ourselves. I'm concerned, but let's focus on how do we want to, come out of this. There is an end. We will come out of this. So that was something that we are telling ourselves and also our students as well. So having said that, how that translates into self-motivated students is that first we meet there, and then only after we engage them, grab them, because we're not in classroom, they don't have the set time, set space together. So now remotely and self-paced. So how can we engage them for initial contact? That became the first important thing we kind of focused on. And gradually over weeks, that developed into moving them into self-learner mode. So that was the kind of over a couple of weeks. It didn't happen overnight. From what I've seen, but those are the steps. Is there anything that, Michelle, that you could add? Maybe I missed?
Yeah, like echoing off of what you said, I think initially the first step was to really make that connection with the students and express our concern for them and that we do care about them. And then once we've sort of met students at their level, like you said, encourage them to continue the self-motivation. For me personally, just this week, I recently introduced I call it self-study challenge. So since I am a Japanese learner too, I expressed to my students, I have to keep up with my Japanese too. So I need to study my Japanese as well. So I did a self-study challenge with them where we are filling out a log every week, how much Japanese we study and what we study. So I made my log actually visible to all of them so that they can keep me accountable and that I can also check in on them. So I think since I am a non-native Japanese teacher, I think I have that unique opportunity to be able to connect with my students as a Japanese learner and kind of show them, I'm trying to stay self-motivated, so I hope you stay self-motivated as well.
Thank you. And people are also wondering how you do stay connected with the students. Do you have synchronous time? Do you have any individual, any communication tool that you can send messages to your learners? It sounds like that's a really important element that you have here. Other than being able to have a synchronous session, what might be some other ways that you are staying connected? Thank you.
For most of my communication, the majority is on Google Classroom. I'll make announcements on there. I do hold asynchronous Google Meets because I do understand students are not always able to make it to the Google Meet. So I'm sure to record sessions and then post it on Google Classroom later so that they can view it. And of course, I tell them all the time on Google Classroom, I'm available through email. Email me anytime if you're not able to catch me at the Google Meets. And I know that in our PLCs, there's teachers who are also using apps such as Remind so that the message will go directly to the students' phones, and different types of ways to communicate with students. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's really important to stay connected. For the case of our district, our policy has changed slightly every week. First, synchronous was okay, but then it became just voice only, and now it's okay to do the face-to-face and so forth. So it's really moving target. It's always constantly moving. Since
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking about how important it is to stay connected and engage students. So we'd like to spend a few slides on this topic of staying connected. As I mentioned earlier, the first thing we thought about was our student. That was Monday. We went to school closure, March 16th. And 18th, in 2 days, we had to send out something quickly to let them know that we are there for them. We care and we are not sure about the future, but we're here with them. So first thing we did was, instead of assigning tasks, we just really had to take off the teacher hat and put, being a human being, fellow human being, about the experience this, something that pandemic that we never experienced. So we created this 3-minute video and then shot out to students via Google Classroom as well as email to try to reach. And it's a 3-minute video, but I'm going to show first 1 minute. I hope you enjoy.
Minasan, konnichiwa.
Everyone, dear Japanese students of Salinas Union High School District, o genki desu ka? We hope you and your family are doing well during this time of school closure. All of us sensei are thinking about you.
As you know, all of Monterey County is under shelter-in-place instructions until April 7th. So what are we doing during this time?
I get to catch up with grades.
I finally get to clean my room.
I get to read books.
Estoy aprendiendo español.
This is an opportunity to learn stuff that you've always wanted to learn but just didn't have the time. There's only so many video games you can play, right?
Wait, hold on. That's so not true. I can play video games for days.
Although it's fun to play games and watch anime, after a while, we may be left with an unproductive feeling. That's a yucky feeling.
We suggest you plan your daily schedules so that you can be productive and have fun at this.
So that was our way to connect with students. And we are happy to report that that was received really well. It reached out to many students, and really heartwarming comments came from our students. If you could share some of the comments, Michelle, do you remember as any of the comments you received or we received?
Oh, there were a lot of students that were happy to see their sensei's faces. I think it was kind of like a relief for them since, the school closed. It was just a nice, friendly, warming message for them to be able to see like the face of their sensei.
Yes, and if you look at this, you might think that we do video a lot or something like, we never done it before. This was our first video. We just, no editing, we just videotaped, and from our heart, we sent the message to our students. And another aspect of this is, of course, each individual teacher could do this, but we felt like as a PLC, professional learning community, all together, get together to have one message to our students in Salinas Union High School District. We felt that that was important, and that's how. And it was also important to go out really quickly. We didn't have time to really think and do it right, 100% right. We just had to get the heart out and reach out to our students. And that was the first video that we created. So, so after that, so as I mentioned, the first week, March 16th, that week was our preparation week. And the first thing that was really important to us is to just look around at what we have. And rather than going on to grabbing onto different apps, learn new apps and put it all together, we felt like, okay, first connect with them and then look at what we have. What can we do? So Google Classroom Handout, that's something that we already are using in the classroom. and we made it into Hyperdoc. And Michelle's going to talk a little bit about this Hyperdoc documents. Michelle.
Thank you. Yes, so as Azama Sensei mentioned, this handout is something that we already had using in our classroom. So it's essentially the Hyperdoc is the online version of our existing handout that we were already using. So the way it works is that it's created on Google Doc, and then students get their own copy of the document, and they're able to type directly into the document their answers. So as you can see on the screenshot here, there's a white space, white boxes. So any white spaces or white boxes is where the students would directly type their answers to the questions or to the prompts. So in this one, it's activity 1. This is the input stage. So it says to listen to Sensei's presentation. And this is where we include hyperlinks for any presentations, any input sections, or any teacher modeling. And it would take them directly to the video or the resource to watch. In this situation, it's a video that was created directly using our PowerPoint, which we're already using in the classroom. So we just used, I think I used Screencastify to create a video presentation using those slides. So students would watch that, and then they would put their answers directly into the Google Doc. And so when we were creating this, we were very intentional about not using any new technologies that students aren't familiar with. We really tried to stick with using tools, online tools that they were already familiar with using in the classroom already, because we really didn't want to overwhelm the students with new technology and new information. So some of the pros we found about this type of learning experience is that since it was already an existing handout, it did kind of lighten the workload on the teacher's end, because we already had the handout created. All we had to do was make slight modifications to it and create the supplemental materials like the videos and the activities. But not only for the teacher, it's also familiar for the students as well, since they have already become accustomed to using this format of handout in the classroom. This Hyperdoc was very familiar for them. So that was also a strength, I believe, of the Hyperdoc. Some challenges we did face with using the Hyperdoc was that because it was originally intended for classroom use, it was a little more difficult to support the students as they were doing the handout, and also more difficult for us to check for understanding throughout the process. Whereas in the classroom, you have multiple opportunities to kind of pause and do multiple checkpoints to check for the students' understanding. But for the Hyperdoc, there really is only one opportunity at the end to kind of check the document and give them feedback on that. And you can't see their faces while they're doing the document. So it's just a little more challenging to give feedback and to check for understanding using this Hyperdoc. But overall, we found that students were self-motivated, and after looking at the data, around 50% of the students either started and or completed the handout and submitted to Google Classroom.
Thank you. And also know that that week we were instructed to just focus on review only. We were instructed not to move forward new content. And for that reason, we chose this existing handout so that the students can go review. Okay. And also some of the members in our PLC mentioned that some kids skipped some of the activities and did the project, did the formative assessment piece, jumped right to it, and which is fine, in my opinion. So students are really ready to tackle that. So in that sense, we have to be kind of flexible. It's not doing each activity was important, but like each activities were important to get to the project and a small task that they created. So it was really interesting. Students are doing it in their own way. So would you say, Michelle, so there was even a little modification, you had to create a slide with voiceover, and had to do some of that stuff, but it wasn't that hard of the switch from regular classroom.
Yeah, it was very doable, especially since we already have the materials. We already had the handout created on Google Doc, and we had the Google Slides for the presentation that we use in class. So all we really had to do was, put in those white spaces for them to type in, and then create any videos for presentation or teacher modeling.
Thank you. And logistically, so those of you who are using Google Doc system, Google Classroom, you're probably familiar with this. Once you create a template, it's students make a copy of their version, so it's all going to the same folder. So it really helps teachers organize to see their progress as well. So after this was assigned, so that's the first week we kind of executed this classroom handout with Hyperdoc. Then following, so as you can see, there's more like a teacher responsibility on the teacher. So in other words, teacher did the planning of the lesson, and students did it mostly by themselves with some interactions. But mostly this is considered as more of a teacher responsibility. So after that, our first video was such a hit that we felt like we were a YouTuber. We thought maybe had a future as a YouTubers. Maybe we're dreaming. But since that time, within a month or so, we were able to create 15 or maybe 16 video contents, video lessons for our students. And again, we had no experience creating YouTube prior to this, and all we had was, some of us are more comfortable with this, some of us are more uncomfortable with this. How do we do it? But we kind of, as a group, we were like, let's learn together. So let's go with it. So we started creating YouTube video lessons with Google Forms. As Michelle mentioned earlier, we're trying to stick with the tools that students are really used to, which was, for our case, is the Google suite. And we felt that instead of just showing the videos, we had to make a lesson with the Google Forms. And we'd like to share some of that. But before that, there are 15 contents, and we'd like to share some of the topics we have created. Michelle.
Oh, yes. So we wanted to really make sure to create a variety of videos to address the variety of our students' interests. So we have different topics such as drawing, cooking, what else? Games, cultural games, and cultural events. But we also wanted to make sure to make videos that were also relevant and timely. So we do have topics such as life in Japan under COVID-19, so that students can kind of get an idea of what life is like over there during this pandemic. We also created, folktales, Japanese folktales for students, because as we mentioned, we know that a lot of our students are having to, take on the role of the parent, and they're babysitting their younger siblings while their parents are at work. So we thought folktale would be a fun thing to do. And we actually did this one in Japanese and in Spanish, because a lot of our students come from Spanish-speaking households. And then we also have a self-care video and stress relief video, because we all need some stress relief during this time. So we wanted to share some ideas with our students to make sure that they're taking care of themselves and also relieving their stress.
So again, we really kept in our minds that has to be relevant and also fun. Humor is there, but also we kind of tackle the serious topics like make yourself your own face mask. This is how you make it, to discuss, and invited former students who live in Japan now, and invited them on a Zoom conference, and 4 of us, we interviewed them, the former students in Japan, how's life, and we started creating content with them. And I'd like to share one example of what Google Form lesson can look like on this topic of life in Japan under COVID-19. So as you can see, familiar Google Form lesson, we started with background information and also the questions in mind when they before they watch the video. We're trying to make it from anywhere between 8 minutes to some of them long ones like 30 minutes. Well, as we go, we learn. So we're trying to keep it short. But I think anywhere between like 8 minutes to 15 minutes or so. Most of the videos are like that. And then as you can see, immediately after that, you have multiple choice questions. When we were creating this lesson with the Google Form, we wanted to provide students feedback, immediate feedback. So as they're learning by themselves, self-paced, they get some kind of feedback immediately. And also, at the end, we have a small task that is relevant to real life. In this case, after they watched former students' discussions about life in Japan under COVID-19 and learn about different content, words, and vocabulary. And the task is to ask their senpais, the upperclassmen, questions that they have. And we always ended the lesson with a reflection. What did they learn? What did they think of it? And that part, since we're doing it in English, and but what we really were cognizant about this when we're creating this was that make a short lesson rather than long lesson for that last weeks. We want this lesson to be short, specific, and as a result, students are able to actually write questions to their senpais, upperclassmen, directly. And thanks to my former students, they took enormous time to reply to their questions. I feel badly. I probably have to buy them lunch or something, or maybe dinner even. So I feel really fortunate. And here, as you can see, you are making a connection between the current students group and also their former their senpais, upperclassmen who graduated a long time ago. So they're making a connection as well. Paul?
Thank you. There are several questions coming in related to differentiation. This is both within one class. You have a variety of levels, even if they're in the same class. They're not all at the same actual proficiency level. How do any strategies you might share around differentiating? Do they have the same video? Do they have the same tasks? How might you handle that wide variety? And now you're not there to coach them.
Right, great question. So in terms of differentiation by topics and interests, we have created a variety of topics. So in that way, students are able to choose which topic to explore. And some of them explore many, some of them explore a few, but nevertheless, they had opportunities to firsthand to explore those topics. That's number one of differentiation in the topic-wise. And skill-wise, that's something that, in the classroom, you have curriculum set, you know exactly where you want them to be, the proficiency level and the content as well. But that's something that we had to, I wouldn't say sacrifice, but improvise a little bit. As you mentioned, so we're not there to really guide them, so we have to kind of like broaden the opportunity instead of narrowing this lesson is for novice level, this lesson is for upper level. So open up the topics and yes, I'll put some students wrote just a simple sentence. Novice level student watch this video and maybe just wrote short sentence, whereas upper level students wrote more. So in other words, what was strong and weak was that strong as the students gained content vocabulary, rich vocabulary that beyond their level, because they're discussing about self-quarantine in Japanese, or infection, or, and some of the cultural word that came out, like shoganai, which means there's nothing like you can do, kind of cultural vocabulary. So in other words, students took vocabulary at their level, wherever the level it was. So that was to me, that was a strength. So level 1 student, novice level, could pick up those high sophisticated vocabulary. But now the output part was rather more limited output, meaning there are more, we didn't have enough time to enough opportunity for them to practice the output language. So the output part was, yes, in this case, compromise, I should say. But nevertheless, again, really the focus was engagement and understanding and relating to others. So in that sense, I think this task really accomplished that.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So compared to the previous type of activity handout, this falls into like somewhat between teacher and student responsibility in the middle, because students were able to pick the topic they want to explore, and the output part, they had their choices to express their understanding, the skills. So that falls into a responsibility right in the middle area. Okay. All right. So, and with that YouTube video lesson, what's great is that when you put yourself out there and be vulnerable and just be yourself, if teachers do that, and really awesome response we will receive from our students. And this is a sample video we received from Michelle's former students. Would you like to talk a little bit about this, please?
Yes. So these are, as Azama Sensei said, former students of mine. And one day they just shared the video and said, "Sensei, thank you, and thank all the senseis in Salinas for the videos you've been making on YouTube. They've really inspired us and motivated us." So they created this video kind of as their way to reach out to the current students in our Japanese program, to show them how they're staying connected to Japanese during this time and even after high school, after graduating, and just to really send them messages of encouragement. So this was really unexpected. We didn't ask them to create this. They just sent it to us one day and said, "Sensei, this is what we made because we were inspired by watching your YouTube channel." And it was just so moving because I think, as we mentioned, the intention of our YouTube channel is really to make a connection with the students and to show them that, even during this time when we have to be physically separated, it doesn't mean we have to be alone. And we really wanted to send that message of connectedness and togetherness. So then, when we saw that it was reaching not only our current students, but even our former students, it was just so moving and so touching to see that our message was conveyed. And then they too were inspired to send that same message to the current students that are studying Japanese.
Yeah, it was so wonderful and unexpectedly. So that's
yeah.
the best part. And so I guess we're YouTubers now. That's unexpected too. Yes, so we're gonna be making more videos. Okay. So the next, I'd like to talk about my Japanese Impact Project. So first types of activities we introduced was a handout with a Hyperdoc, which was we could easily do. But the limitation was we're not there, and we had to supplement with different tools to make it almost like attempted to create classroom instruction like a setting. And then the second one we introduced was a YouTube lessons with Google Forms. Google Forms, a short lesson with immediate feedback and tasks that relate to real life. And we talked about current topics. Therefore, we were able to capture many students. We knew that they watch YouTube a lot. So that's something that, we were mindful about. The last thing we'd like to introduce today is the My Japanese Impact Project. So this time, students do have time and unstructured time at home and computer. By the way, when we did the survey at the district level, we found out that 90% plus of students do have Chromebook and do have access to Wi-Fi. It doesn't mean that they have designated time and space to access to it. That's another issue, but we at least knew that it's Chromebook and the Wi-Fi available to many students. So instead of us trying to move students from this part to this part, and normally it's okay, and it's something we do in the classroom, we control, and but now it's time for us to release that control. I know it's scary. It's scary because we feel good if we had control in classroom activity by activity, so that we can ensure their success. But that's something that we realize we have to do. We had to take off the teacher hat and then put the coaching hat on. So that's something that we had in our minds. So this is the message went out to our students. And it's our classroom time together. I'm hoping you and your family are doing well during this school closure time. You have time to explore the many facets of Japanese culture that you always wanted to learn. So kind of frame it like that, describe their situation. And thanks to the internet knowledge and the resources at your fingertips, I want to support you with your exploration. This is a bit different from traditional classroom learning. By saying that, I was really making that point that this is going to be a different experience from classroom. Now frame it. So you are in the driver's seat. I'll be supporting you from the passenger seat. I will do my best to be a good co-pilot during the journey. So first take this survey, a short survey, to find out what you're interested in. So we created a survey and asked them what they're interested in. We were very nervous when we assigned this project. The result? How was the result, Michelle?
There was a high student response to the project and a variety of different interests that they want to look into.
Yeah, it's like 54 students or something like that.
I got, I think, 58, like close to 60 responses.
Again, this is an opt-in situation,
Yeah.
and none of them have to do it. And especially this project came out immediately after our state issued that hold no harm grading policy. In other words, some of the students who are doing the work for the grades, some of them unfortunately stop learning. And that's the moment that we have to shift the thinking to learning for the learning's sake. Not for the grade, but learning for the learning's sake, because we feel good when we learn. So really this COVID-19, this school closure made us realize that this is actually an opportunity perhaps for us to take a break from working the grades, but pause and just to take a moment, think about, what do I want to learn? What do I need to learn? What do I want to learn? What resources do I have? Really to promote students to become more resourceful and self-driven. So that was the intention of this project. So this is the framework that we use, and then we ask the questions such as this. Step 1, what are your interests? And we give some ideas, but the last section, there's a blank section that the students can write. And this is the moment that as a teacher, we realize, oh my God, we thought what they were interested in. We felt like they're gonna love anime, they're gonna explore anime. There's a very small number of students who said, I want to learn about anime. More students are interested in science, or some obscure topic was a Japanese prime minister, a history of prime minister, or something like that, religion or something like that. And so step one, we ask their interest. Step two, we ask them, how would you like to show what you learned? So simply we ask them, would you like to write an online column or make a commercial, make an art, make a music, etc.? So we ask that question. And then, okay, in order to achieve that goal that you would like to achieve, what do you think you should know? What are the topics and knowledge you have to gain in order to do that well? So we ask them. So this is the initial survey questions. And these are some of the topics that came out that we would have never guessed otherwise. Medical field, of course, COVID-19 in Japan. Someone wanted to learn about Japanese humor and jokes and whatnot. So those are things that traditionally we cover in our curriculum. But because of this, I think this really surfaced, and we felt like we learned a lot. And this is still in the middle. We assigned it last week, I believe. And I remember one of the teachers said he was overwhelmed. He said, wow, first 24 hours, he got 40 responses from his students. And he was, overwhelmed a little bit, but he said that he was happy to see traditionally shy kid or checked out kids started coming back to this. They sign up and they started having a conversation with teacher. So that is the engagement. Put students in the driver's seat and the teachers on the passenger seat. Let's guide them as a coach. The challenge was to transition from teaching to coaching. Coaching requires a lot of inquiry, asking without giving them definite answer. Sometimes you have to really bite your tongue and just go with what students want to do. And as a language teacher, of course, we would suggest, perhaps you can do this way too. You can show your knowledge this way and whatnot. But again, ultimately, our learners have a say, right? Michelle, is there anything that you'd like to share about Japanese Impact Project?
Yeah, I think this was a great opportunity for us to also see what our students' interests are, not just related to Japan, but in general, because usually they're picking topics that they want to learn more about, that they're already interested in. So for me, as I was going through responses, I thought, wow, I never knew this student was into science, or I never knew this student was into art. So it's a learning opportunity for me. And I think it's also a great opportunity for the students to get to explore topics that they would have otherwise wouldn't have been able to explore during class, because we do have the set curriculum and the topics that we do go over in class. I think it's a great chance for them to kind of break out and explore the things that really interest them in related to Japan.
So as you can imagine, this can be an overwhelming thing, because now we are getting big numbers of students signing up for this. Again, for no particular grading or anything, but the pure interest. And but the challenges are, I'd like to share, is that so many of them. How do we keep track? So, and we're trying to match the students with similar interests, and can you work with this person, and whatnot. So that's the first step. Next step is really to have a conversation either through email or Google Meet, and to really spend 10-15 minutes or so to discuss about what students really want to do, what's durable, what resources teachers can offer, really the conversation about their learning journey. So that is the next step, to keep their interest going. So we are planning to spend next 4 weeks on this project. And so far in the initial stage is a lot of interest, and teachers are communicating with the students and planning together. And at the end, in 3 weeks or so, we're gonna have this event, expo, like celebration of learning, where we host their work on the website and share with the public. So stay tuned. So as you can see, the first handout was more teacher-driven, and YouTube video lesson was in the middle, and this one is clearly to the right and student-driven. As teachers, we are learning as well, and it's not always easy to put teacher's hat off and put coach's on, but we are learning. We're learning together. So this is a summary of 3 types of assignments, not assignments, learning experiences that we have assigned so far. And on the weekly plan, usually the teacher assigns 1 YouTube video, and classroom handout is still ongoing in the current. And then each week, at least, we are teachers assigning a 1 or 2 YouTube Google Form lessons. And my Japanese Impact project is also going as those videos are going forward. So those 3 lines are going simultaneously. We felt that each video lesson is usually lasts about 30 minutes to 45 minutes for one to complete for the week. So we felt like with that and maybe 1 hour for impact project and 30 minutes for handout. So we felt like roughly about 1 hour and 2 hour study time for Japanese. We felt like this is not too overwhelming, and it's doable and manageable. So there's something that we have to think about. We could easily assign a bunch of stuff, but instead we just wanted to control the amount of assignments that will go out. And so far, students, we ask them every 2 weeks or so, we ask them, so this is too much, how's it going? And many students said, this is right, just right, that's right. So we haven't heard one that says it's too much or too little. So that's a good thing. Maybe they're scared to say it, I don't know. So all those samples, we created this website essentially for Japanese teachers, but I can see many other language teachers can, we're welcome to explore, come and explore and download some of the templates, and then please go ahead, tweak it and modify it, and make it better, and please share with us. And you will see students' voice, and also we have a section for teacher community where they share their comments and whatnot. So bit.ly/SUHSD Japanese, and we'll love to hear from you what you think of it.
If I can just bring in some of the questions that people have been asking, Michelle and Yo. One is related to the level that you would be able to adapt this for. This whole project idea, this giving the students the responsibility, these opening up of the tasks. How do you balance for more novice students, middle school students, so younger learners? And with that comes sort of that question of the accountability of, which is the other half of the responsibility. If I give you responsibility, you're also taking on some of that accountability. So where is the teacher's role in all of that? If you can address that and the adaptation down to more beginning level students.
Yes. Yes. So as a coach, we will first thing to listen what they really want to know, and we honor that. However, we're here, coach, to push them and also help them achieve it, because that's really important for us to help them achieve. Because if they set it too high, and they may not be able to produce it at their language level. Having said that, sometimes level 1 student, he wanted to learn about Japanese prime ministers. I don't know why, but that's what he wanted. So the approach is how you're going to show your understanding. And at this level, and we allow the students to do this particular case in English, because he wanted to do something with the knowledge base, more of a fact and knowledge, and that's what he wanted to do. So we allow that to happen. But along the way, we are mindful about, he'll pick up some vocabulary and language content words related to this in the context, but his output may not reflect that, but may reflect that, but it's maybe not at the sentence level or paragraph discourse level, but maybe chunks of words. So that's how we adapted for novice level. Higher level, on the other hand, we are pushing them, we are guiding them so the language matching their level. And we're trying to be not too discouraging or something, like they want to do something really higher, but then without us saying, oh, your language, you cannot meet there. We don't want to stay discouraged. So we will maybe tweak the task itself. Okay, instead of a long online column, perhaps you can write a tweet about this. And so that's a product itself. We would tweak it and frame it differently. So we're meeting what they want to do in a way that they could manage it. They can manage. So I hope I answered the question.
And part of the part of the question too has to do with sort of the mode of communication. So the L1 versus L2 is another part of that. For the interpretive mode, for the interpersonal, for presentational, how do you guide students and again give them that responsibility? And part of that again, it comes back to that whole accountability piece. If you have to grade, if you have to give feedback of some type.
Right. Great question. Yeah, I mean, interpersonal has been really challenging. We also wanted to have the lesson to be short enough and concise, not too long, to keep their interest, and they will get immediate, maybe not immediate, but short-term satisfaction. So you get it right away. So we wanted to really sense of achievement we were thinking about students have, and also the topics they're interested in. So I think this model so far, in interpretive and presentational, they're definitely there. And sometimes output part, we are planning on having Japanese students, high school students, and our students having a forum and talking about life under COVID-19, what that's like. So we are facilitating that conversation as a forum stage. So we are planning on how to prepare students for such a discussion. So that's something that we are planning right now.
Thank you. And can you also share any suggestions around assessment? Or is that no longer a question because the task becomes the assessment? That's another big question here being asked.
Yes. So Google Form provides it's with the multiple choice questions. It spit out the right or wrong answer or with the feedback written. But the ones that require more nuanced feedback or the feedback that push them to the next level, and that also can be done on Google Form in the written format. But it has been difficult to give oral feedback on the spot when they're speaking. So that is something that because it requires time and place, so logistic thing. So we haven't been able to facilitate that more effectively, as we like for interpersonal part. But with all those things, it wouldn't happen if we don't have the engagement and buy-in from students to come in. So the immediate thing is to have them, engage them and get them excited by learning, and then stay with us. And then we're moving together remotely. So that's the reality of it. And we struggle to give immediate feedback, and also facilitate the classroom discussion. That has been a challenge so far.
Excellent, excellent. Let's see, another question had to do with creating collaboration. Are there strategies, tools, ways that you have students collaborate rather than working individually on at least some aspects of the variety of tasks you're having them do?
Yes. One of the things that we used was the app called Goose Chase, where students, it's kind of a scavenger hunt, where students do tasks, and that can be easily done different levels. And there, of course, they do individually, but like on the same task or same mission, they can collaborate and working on this same task as a small group to meet the task. In that sense, they will achieve that there as well. The last portion of my Japanese impact project, we are encouraging students to work together so that we are hoping, even though they have ownership for their topic, we're trying to match at least pair situations so they could collaborate as well. So we really wanted to, there are some things that ideal what we can do in the real the regular life, normal life. This feels like a long time ago, but this is like a new normal that we have to adapt. So in other words, we have to be realistic about it. And in old world, we could have done this much with a classroom, designated time, designated place, and everything is safe. But now we are under the situation where those things was normal and easy, and back then was difficult to do. So we had to compromise some of the aspects that.
Absolutely, sure. And someone suggested also the Zoom breakout rooms as a way to, if you're in a synchronous situation, that's a way to foster some collaboration and interpersonal communication. And a last question for you, and then I'll let you all wrap it up. What have you learned from this experience that you're going to say, it was worth it because when I get back to my own face-to-face class, I'm going to do something a little different?
Michelle, would you like to start with that?
Oh, I definitely think it is the prioritizing that connection with the students. For me, I always wanted or try to make connections with students, but I think, being in the classroom and teaching, it's easy to get caught up in all the work. And then, at least for me, I'm like, oh, I have to make sure I stay on pace with the curriculum. I have to make sure I teach them this and this and this and this and make sure they do the work. So for me, I think I can get caught up easily in that and forget that, there needs to be that connection first between the student and the teacher in order for the students to really feel, a sense of motivation to do the work. And kind of just what really kind of resonated with me was I had a staff meeting for my school, a Zoom staff meeting. And then it was early in the beginning when we were discussing how we were just only supposed to do review and no new content. So a lot of the teachers were voicing like, I need to teach content. I can't just review for 2 months. And so our principal, she said something that really hit home with me. She told us, aim for the heart first, and then the mind will follow. And that just really stuck with me. And I thought that is exactly what needs to be done, because, the students, they're probably just as scared as we are right now. So they really need that support and that encouragement. And they need to see that we're not just trying to force work onto them or force learning onto them, but we're really here to make a connection with them. So that's something I want to take with me when we go back to the actual classroom, to really prioritize building those relationships with the students more.
Thank you, Michelle. That's so beautifully said. I'll let the two of you finish up then. Thank you.
Thank you.
So lastly, I'd like to share this poem by Rumi. If everything around you seems dark, look again. You may be the light. And you are the light and our student holds a light, and hope bring our light forward and ignite and their kindle of this fire, the light within them, really tap into the curiosity and give hope for future, because the feeling that comes from that light of that we hold within us. And thank you so much for spending time with us today, and hope our presentation was helpful to you, and look forward to hearing your comments and questions. And thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle and Yo, thank you so much for such an informative webinar, and for taking us right into your thinking, your planning as you design very effective learning for your students. Your very practical ideas are going to help all of the language educators listening now and in the future focus on how to engage and empower their learners. And to every language educator, thank you for all you are doing for your learners today and every day. Your learners need you now more than ever. Thank you for learning with ACTFL.
Thank you.
Thank you.